Welcome to our journey back in time as we explore the specifics of courtship and marriage in the 19th century. We'll also examine the complicated relationships and romantic ideals of bygone social status, all the while evaluating the cons and pros of this fascinating historical period in England. Romantic ideas that valued marriage, dedication, and family values defined the Victorian era. Marriage was regarded as a sacred relationship that society and religion had commanded, and love was praised as the ultimate purpose of life. The emphasis on courtship and romantic gestures was one of the advantages of Victorian Romanticism. To create an atmosphere of excitement and commitment, couples went on chaperoned outings, exchanged love notes and tokens of affection, and much more. Victorian marriages were based on a vow of friendship, responsibility, and mutual respect. Couples that shared similar goals and responsibilities helped each other through both the good and the bad and the hardships of life. Victorian marriages frequently gave couples and their families social security and stability. Marital alliances were seen as unions among households, strengthening communal ties and guaranteeing economic stability by combining wealth and property. Victorian families valued the interests and well-being of the family over the needs of individual members, placing a high priority on family unity and values. Marriage was viewed as a means of preserving family history, customs, and standards, creating continuity and a sense of identity among the generations that followed. Victorian marriages frequently offered a framework for parental supervision and guidance, especially when it came to the raising and education of children. Parents actively took part in their children's moral, intellectual, and social development by teaching virtues like self-control, deference, and responsibility. Their love was expressed with devotion through poetry and love letters. Here are a few examples of hypocritical social norms in the 19th century. Victorian culture displayed a contradictory view of sexuality. Though repressed and socially forbidden, there was still a fascination with sexuality and sensuality, despite the outward preaching of values of purity, modesty, and chastity. Social taboos surrounding sexuality and extremely strict moral rules existed with the rise of erotica and pornography, which were often enjoyed in secret. In Victorian society, talking about sexuality was frowned upon, and expressing one's sexual desire in public was viewed as impolite and immoral. Discussions about contraception, extramarital affairs, and premarital sex were all outright prohibited. The idealization of virginity and the stigmatization of non-normative sexual practices were the results of the Victorian era's emphasis on modesty and purity. In spite of the prevailing ethical norms that valued virginity, faithfulness, and familial principles, a considerable number of married men had extramarital affairs and used brothel prostitutes. The use of brothels by married men reflected a variety of factors, including social pressures, sexual repression, and the unequal power dynamics between men and women. For some men, visiting brothels provided an outlet for sexual desires that were otherwise suppressed or unfulfilled within the confines of marriage. For others, it was a means of asserting power and control over women, exploiting their vulnerability and economic dependence. Married men using brothels highlights the hypocrisy of Victorian rules of ethics, which frequently hid more sinister realities about society rules and human nature behind appearances of respectability. Women were meant to stand for the virtues of morality, domesticity, and obedience, while men were held in esteem for their strength, authority, and wisdom. However, these sex stereotypes frequently deceived, excluded, and dehumanized women in addition to preventing them from pursuing higher education and employment opportunities, which left them with an unachievably high moral standard. Victorian society was extremely class segregated, with different standards and expectations for people according to their standing in society. Although the upper class presented a picture of sophistication, moral superiority, and culture, their privilege was frequently based on the exploitation of the working class. There were differences and inconsistencies in social norms and expectations, since the lower classes had to live and work in difficult conditions, while still upholding the same moral standards as their privileged superiors. The Victorian era was defined by the powerful effect of religion on morality and social values. Victorian views on morality, compassion, and social reform were strongly influenced by Christianity, especially evangelicalism. But this devotion to faith was frequently misplaced, since several people and organizations claimed to be ethical while carrying out actions that went against Christian teachings, like discrimination against those in need, labor exploitation, and the rise of imperialism. Victorian fundamentals were exposed by the excuses of cultural imperialism, economic exploitation, and the exploitation of indigenous cultures under the guise of civilizing missions. Victorian culture and society were marked by basic contradictions and injustices, as demonstrated by the fact that while certain ideals and values were cherished as moral standards, reality frequently fell short of these high, fake ideals. As we reflect on the pros and cons of Victorian romance, let us remember that love is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that transcends time and customs. By understanding the lessons of the past, we can navigate the complexities of modern relationships with wisdom and compassion. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.